US President Donald Trump has put a pause on Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, Washington claims the move paves the way for a comprehensive peace deal. But Iran says that the US has suffered a humiliating defeat. When Donald Trump announced Project Freedom, he said it is, quote, humanitarian effort and a favor to the world. A day later, the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said that the waterway is under American control and their Navy is guiding commercial vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz. But hours after Hegseth's statement, Donald Trump put his Project Freedom on hold at Pakistan's request. Reacting to this, Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy said that safe transit through the strait will be ensured with new procedures in place. However, the statement did not specify what these new procedures are. Donald Trump pulled back from Project Freedom within 24 hours. Let's quickly tell you how the events have unfolded in the last few days. On the 3rd of May, remember, Donald Trump announced that the American Navy will start guiding commercial vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz. In response, the IRGC announced the blockade at the entry and exit points of the Strait of Hormuz. Project Freedom came into effect on the 4th of May. United States claimed that some vessels have passed through the strait unharmed, and CENTCOM confirmed to have hit 6 Iranian boats that were trying to approach the vessels. On the very same day, UAE reported an attack on its Fujairah oil facility and intercepted multiple drones and missiles in its airspace. The UAE once again reported missile and drone interceptions in its airspace on the 4th of May. The U.S. Secretary of War and the Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff gave a briefing on Project Freedom, but hours later, Donald Trump announced a pause on the project. Now, the Trump administration has already informed the U.S. Congress that Operation Epic Fury is over. The U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports remains in place. At the peace front, America awaits Iran's response to its 14-point memorandum that is aimed at ending the war and to start formal talks. Whether or not that happens, that is the big question that not just America and Iran are looking at, but the entire world is awaiting closely. So this by far has been the latest situation. Remember, Donald Trump in just a few hours has halted Project Freedom. Operation Epic Fury has ended as per Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State. And now we've got Iran responding, saying that the proposal that has been sent by the United States is essentially its own wish list and has nothing to do with what Iran wants in this entire deal. In fact, just a short while back, the US president had also posted on his Truth Social that attacks will resume if Iran doesn't make a deal quickly. That, of course, remains a pressure tactic and a communication channel that Donald Trump continues to operate from. But whether or not Iran will give in is the big question. Also, of course, remember, this entire conflict has led to major disruptions in the global economy, and therefore the entire world now awaits what will happen next. There are hints that are coming in, at least from Washington, D.C., and American media reports that there could be some sort of memo that is being discussed between the two sides, but little is known. There are not many details that have come out officially from any of the sides. Let's quickly get a perspective of what really is happening. I'm joined by Colonel Daniel L. Davis. He's a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. He's joining us live from Sterling, United States. Colonel David, good evening. Welcome to WION. Straight up question, the first one. Has the Iran war ended?
Definitely not. No, we are no closer than we were the day before, no matter what a social media post by the President of the United States may say, because none of the fundamental issues have been resolved. And that is that Iran is in firm control of the Strait of Hormuz. And they just yesterday published new permanent conditions for passage through. I think it's called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. And they said, listen, we're in control of this. If you pay a fee, if you get an authorization, if you pay us reparations, you can come through. And this is permanent. So until that gets addressed, either the United States acknowledges it or the Iranian side refutes it, one way or the other. That is the central issue right now, of this entire war right now. And you see that the Iranian side is not only firm, but getting more firm in their control of it. So until I hear anything out of the White House that acknowledges that issue there, I don't know what else is on these 14 points, but that's got to be point number one, and it is definitely not resolved.
The White House did say that Operation Epic Fury has ended and that Project Freedom has been halted for the moment. What do you think of that? Because Iran has been upping the ante. They've been quite hardened in their stance, as you mentioned, as opposed to the American side, the Trump administration, which has almost softened its tone in the past few hours.
I definitely did at 7:30 this morning on Eastern Coast time. President Trump put this thing out that said, "Hey, as long as Iran agrees to what it agreed to, we'll end. This war could come to a quick end, and or otherwise the bombing will go back." He always throws that part in there, but he did make it sound optimistic, and yet he claims in there as long as Iran does what it agreed to, but there hasn't been any. He was on the New York Post on a telephone interview shortly after that. And he told the reporter there that no, don't pack your bag and go to Pakistan for a meeting yet. It's too early for that, he says. There are no face-to-face meetings even scheduled. And of course, you're never going to just send a memo back and forth between countries and actually do negotiations. You're going to have to be sitting at a table here. And there's nothing even planned. So I don't see anything that even holds the possibility of a near-term resolution.
So help me understand this, Colonel David. Who do you think is more keen, perhaps more desperate to end this war? This is a one-page memo that the Axios report is talking about. A one-page memo from such a long war. Obviously, it will have its own points and proposals, but from long negotiations, day-long negotiations of peace, to trickling down to a one-page memo, what does it say about both sides trying to end this war?
Well, look, there's no question that the United States is definitely in the desperate position here between the two, because the economic impact is having already significant impacts on our ability to do commerce, obviously with gasoline prices, diesel prices, helium, aluminum, all kinds of other things, petrochemicals coming out, fertilizer being the biggest one here. That is already having impacts. It's going to be felt at harvest time later this year in the United States, in Asia, and several other parts of the world. And it's going to be a problem that's already baked in. Every day that the Strait stays closed and that flow doesn't return deepens the price we'll be paying later this year. And of course, then you have the issue of the price of oil and everything else that goes along with that, which is also going to remain high. And we have to get that off. Whereas Iran is suffering from the blockade, and they are suffering from the results of the first 40 days of active conflict. That's something that's much more refined, and that they can survive at home because they have the ability with all their natural resources to endure a long time, and they've got history for that. So they're suffering, but that's suffering that they can do indefinitely for many, many months. We can't go many more weeks without having profound, potentially depression-level economic consequences later this year.
Okay, quickly, last question, Colonel David, to you then. This entire, these fast developments in the last few hours are happening ahead of Donald Trump's visit to China, where he's going to be meeting with his counterpart Xi Jinping. Do you think a deal would happen at that time, before that, or after his China visit?
I would imagine that it's in America's interest to get something done before that, but I mean that's not even 2 weeks away if it sticks on the current schedule. Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister from Iran, just left Beijing and apparently had a really good visit, according to what he said. So you can see that they were kind of setting the stage there, and I'm sure China definitely wants the Strait open, so they want this war over with quick. So they will be using some diplomatic efforts with both countries to get this thing over with quickly. But I think that they also would be fine with it if it kind of knocked America down a notch in the process. So they're not going to be putting pressure on Iran to be given into things. I think if anything, they're going to put pressure on the United States. We'll see how that works out.
All right, let's see how that moves forward. I'll leave it there. Colonel Daniel Davis, thanks very much for joining us on WION.
Always my pleasure.
All right, with that, let's move on and tell you how 5 major publishers and an author have filed a lawsuit alleging that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg had authorized and encouraged the infringement of their copyrighted content. The lawsuit filed in a U.S. federal court argues that Meta misused copyrighted books and journal articles to train its artificial intelligence models, in fact, without permission. The lawsuit has been brought by publishers including Elsevier, Cengage, Sweth, Macmillan and McGraw-Hill, along with the author Scott Turow. They allege that Meta pirated their content and used it to train its Llama AI systems to respond to user prompts. With that, let's shift our focus now to the UK, where it is the final day of campaigning for the local council elections in the country. All parties are out to woo their voters in a tight three-corner contest between the Labour Party, the Conservatives and Reform UK. Now, Reform leader Nigel Farage has pitched his party as the real alternative to his Labour and Conservative rivals. In recent months, the party has seen a rise in popularity, especially on issues of immigration.
Vote reform, get Starmer out. If you want real change in national government and in the approach to local government, we are the change option, and we're on that ballot paper in 99.9% of wards across the United Kingdom. And you know what? We're the only true national party. We're campaigning in all parts of the UK, and I think you're going to be surprised how much enthusiasm there is for our message.
The Tories, on the other hand, are looking to make an impact under the party's new head, Kemi Badenoch, who took over after Conservatives lost the general election in 2024.
What we're seeing is the era of two-party politics moving into multi-party politics. There are no safe seats for any party. We all have to work hard for every vote. What will be a disaster is seeing more Labour, more Lib Dems, more Green, more Reform, because none of these people are serious. The only party that is serious and that has a plan, not just for local councils but for the country, is the Conservatives.
For the Labour Party, it is a litmus test, a challenge to its declining popularity. The Prime Minister himself campaigned to rally support ahead of the 7th May local elections, saying that the party's focus remains on the cost of living.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Lovely, thank you.
Ask most people what matters to them most, and they will say the cost of living. And that is what we absolutely have to focus on. And that's why I'm so proud that that was the centrepiece of our budget last year and the focus of all of our actions, because we must always have in our mind's eye the people most affected by our decisions when we're taking our decisions.
So that, of course, is the kind of battle that UK is looking at as far as its local elections is concerned. Nigel Farage, the man that you see on your screens, has been enjoying some, popularity in the past few months, and he's been gaining that popularity, as opposed to Keir Starmer, who has been embroiled in controversy after controversy. There's pressure, of course, of the conflict that has been going on, the geopolitical situations that he faces, specifically from America. But domestically, there's been a lot of pressure as well, not just the cost of living, but remember, the Peter Mandelson controversy has really made it tough for Keir Starmer to sail through these local elections smoothly. How voters vote in this particular election is something that will be closely watched, because it really will reflect the kind of public sentiment that prevails at the moment within UK. There's been controversy after controversy that has been hitting the Labour Party amid, of course, the declining popularity and approval ratings of the UK Prime Minister. Let's quickly get in a word from what has been happening in UK. Our correspondent Stuart Smith is joining us live from London. Stuart, these are crucial elections, really reflecting the kind of public sentiment that prevails in UK. But for Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, it is coming amid the Peter Mandelson controversy that he and his government have been embroiled in. What is it looking like? What's the battle looking like?
Yeah, it's the final day of campaigning here in London, and as you outlined there, the battle is looking less like a local election campaign and more like a national one, as well as a referendum on the premiership of Keir Starmer. This is meant to be about bins and potholes, local issues that people care about in the small area that they vote within. So here in London, there are 32 boroughs, and each one of those will be re-electing or electing new candidates to their local councils. There are also national elections in Scotland and Wales, but bigger than all of that seems to be effectively this referendum on the Labour Party and Keir Starmer, which could ultimately lead to his resignation. Now, of course, he's the Prime Minister. He's saying he's not going anywhere. But even the murmurings of the fact that his own party may want him to leave is, of course, damaging to any Prime Minister. And there are perhaps three candidates who could try to change the status quo. There's Wes Streeting, who's perhaps more to the right on the Labour Party. There's Angela Rayner, who's more to the left. And there's the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham. All three of them have suggested, hinted at, of course, never openly said outright, that they may be open to taking over should the situation allow it, and very, very poor local election results could be what sparks some kind of attempt at a challenge. Regardless, the Labour government and the Prime Minister says he's not going anywhere, but this local election, depending on those results, which could mean up to 2,000 Labour councillors either not appointed or replaced by another party, that could be really damaging. I mean that Labour lawmakers no longer feel Keir Starmer has the party in control, no longer has the ability to continue to govern, and may decide that a new leader is their best shot. Of course, it's not guaranteed by any means that a new leader will help the party. We've seen this before with the Conservatives over 10 years. They kept changing leader, and ultimately it did not stop them having to either change another leader or ultimately losing a general election. So it's no panacea, but it may be the outcome if these election results are very poor for Labour, and it would be a very big boost for the Green Party, more on the left of British politics, and the Reform Party, more on the right of British politics, who are expected across the country to do pretty well in these local elections.
Right, so things not really getting any easier for Keir Starmer. I'll leave it there. Stuart, thanks very much for joining us at the moment and giving us a perspective of what we can expect in the next few days. West Bengal has given a historic mandate to the Bharatiya Janata Party, and now the focus has been shifting to possible faces who could take over the position of West Bengal's chief minister. And there are several names that are already doing the rounds in the power corridors, but the BJP is yet to announce its pick for this high-stakes post. But the most prominent name to be in this entire list, to be the West Bengal chief minister, has been Agnimitra Paul. She transitioned, remember, from a fashion designer to career politician in 2019. She defeated TMC's Shawnee Ghosh in the 2021 assembly polls from Asansol South seat. In fact, she's retained that seat in this election as well. Agnimitra Paul has been serving as the vice president of the West Bengal BJP. Her appointment could give BJP a second woman chief minister. Next up is Dilip Ghosh, veteran BJP leader with an RSS background. He has been in the fray as well. Dilip Ghosh is BJP's former national vice president and former member of parliament from 2019 till 24. He won the 2026 assembly elections from the Kharagpur Sadar seat. He could be the preferred choice considering seniority and experience in BJP's organizational affairs. Another name that has been doing the rounds for the chief ministerial post is that of Shubhendu Adhikari, the man who's been at the forefront. He has emerged as BJP's giant slayer by defeating Mamata Banerjee in 2 consecutive elections. Shubhendu Adhikari is a former TMC leader who switched sides to the BJP in 2021. And since then, he has solidified his position in the party. In fact, Shubhendu Adhikari has experience in governance as well. He served as the cabinet minister under Mamata Banerjee's second term as the chief minister. But that's not all. The contenders list is still going on. There's another name, that of Shamik Bhattacharya, who's currently serving as BJP's state president in West Bengal. His name has been doing the rounds as well. His association with RSS, remember, dates back to the early 1970s. He's currently a member of the upper house of the parliament. He did not contest the assembly elections this time around, but he could be in consideration for the next chief minister of West Bengal. And in all of this, the final name in the list is that of Swapan Dasgupta, a journalist turned politician. He's been a prominent BJP leader in West Bengal. Swapan Dasgupta has, remember, previously served as nominated member of the Rajya Sabha between 2016 and 21. In a recently concluded assembly elections, this year. In fact, he won from the Rajbihari constituency, which the BJP had not won since independence. Now remember, BJP's top brass is known to select surprise candidates for the post of Chief Minister. We've seen that in Delhi, in Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. All of these four states serve as the biggest examples where the BJP sidelined its veteran leaders to appoint lesser-known faces. The BJP had appointed Home Minister Amit Shah as the observer to West Bengal. He will be overseeing the process of the selection of the CM. BJP state unit has confirmed that the new Chief Minister of West Bengal will take on the 9th of May. All right, shifting our focus now, Romania is facing fresh political turmoil after a no-confidence vote ousted pro-European Prime Minister Eli Bolocan. Lawmakers backed the motion with 281 votes in the 464-seat parliament, toppling a government that had positioned itself firmly in the Western camp and regional tensions. Remember, the crisis has been brewing for weeks. The Social Democrats walked out of the government last month, protesting austerity measures aimed at reducing Romania's budget deficit, which is the largest in the entire EU. Despite the political shake-up, President Nicos Dan had moved quickly to reassure both domestic and international audiences. In fact, he insisted that Romania will maintain its pro-Western course and ruled out any far-right government or snap elections.
Guvernul a fost demis azi de Parlament.
The government was dismissed today by Parliament. It is not a happy moment for any democracy. However, it is a democratic decision by Parliament. I call for calm. Romania is a stable state. State institutions are functioning, and Romania has a direction it is following.
Negotiations are now underway to form a new government, with pro-EU parties expected to try and rebuild the coalition under a different prime minister. Under Romanian law, Bolojan and his cabinet will remain in a caretaker role until a new government is sworn in. Indigenous communities in the United States are gathering for rallies and protests across the country to mark an awareness day for missing Native persons. These communities demand better federal investigation and reforms. Take a look for more details.
For Missing Murdered Indigenous Relatives Peoples Day, it's for me, it means a day to remember all the loved ones, you know, all of our people that were murdered or missing, that a lot of us didn't get to say goodbye to, you know.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. As always, we will keep getting you analysis from across the world and here in India. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter. Because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world. A 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety,